The Information Revolution. Technological roots of the information revolution. The Information Age. The Information Age is most often known as the rapid increase of worldwide interconnectedness that began in the mid-1980s. It was started by the widespread introduction of home computers and the Internet. Technologies of the Information Age. It all started with the telegram, which used Morse code to communicate along cables. The first undersea cable was laid in the 1850s between Newfoundland and Ireland. It made instant communication between continents possible. The telephone was invented almost 40 years later. It used these already in-place telegram cable networks to communicate with analog signals. Not too long after, the radio was introduced, which allowed for communication without cables. These connected moving things, such as boats that previously couldn't be connected. Television was the next big communication medium. It was similar to radios, that it used radio waves, but it allowed for an image to be displayed rather than just audio. The Internet is the latest big communication method. At first, the Internet used pre-existing phone lines to communicate. This was known as dial-up. Now we use things like Wi-Fi, copper cabling, and optic cabling. What technology will have the biggest impact? In our opinion, quantum computing's impact on cryptography will be a problem that needs to be solved in the near future. Right now, most computer cryptography is based on the idea that it would take the average computer thousands of years to try every combination of a security key. Quantum computers change this. They can crack a cryptographic key that would normally take 500,000 years in about 4 seconds. General economic and political impact. A new budget. Nowadays, a lot of families include technology into their budget. Phone plan, internet, a new computer. If you look back 20-30 years ago, most of these things were just part of the extra budget left over. Technology has integrated itself into our lives that it's almost a necessity to budget for it. Even the official budget planning tool created by the Canadian government has a section for phone or internet plan. This has created social and educational online schooling hardships for some families who don't have the budget capacity to pay for these new necessities. Scientific and technological funding. Canada is a pretty technologically advanced country. Canada is one of the leading countries in AI, software development, cybersecurity, and quantum computing. As for how to improve, make cuts to money spent for importing non-renewable energy, subsidies for fossil fuel industry, and increase government investment for technological innovation. Canada is in a good position in terms of its spending for technology, but there's kind of a digital divide here, especially for rural Canadians and First Nations people living on reserves. In 2021, 59.5% of rural households had high-quality internet access, and 42.9% of First Nations people living on reserves had internet access. Since there isn't a lot of transparency on any financial data for fossil fuel subsidies, what the Canadian government would provide to the fossil fuel industry, it's more like it's something that it should do whenever possible. Of course, it'd be ideal if there'd be a lot of transparency on such data. Divide. What is digital divide? Digital divide is gap between people who have access to affordable, reliable internet service and the skills and gadgets necessary to take advantage of that access, and those who lack it. How does digital divide hamper developing country economies? As education is increasingly delivered online, Those without the resources to access the internet, including school children limited to remote learning during the pandemic, can be cut off from opportunities to develop their skills. As a result, children may have educational gaps and adults may miss out on job opportunities or be unable to gain the basic skills necessary to contribute to their community, or in other words, the economy. Who should rectify the digital divide? We all should. Companies in the private sector, governments, educational institutions, non-profits, and communities all have a role to play. Governments will have some bureaucratic hurdles to overcome. Governments of highly developed countries should conduct tech business in developing countries, and governments of developing countries need to focus on making sure their education systems are well funded, supporting businesses that create ICT, and maintaining order in terms of international defense to allow their inhabitants to be educated and grow intellectually. Governments of highly developed countries should also provide support for developing countries to use for supporting ICT innovation, but it will be the responsibility of the governments of developing countries, as well as their own people, to ensure that any economic aid is used responsibly and not for dishonest purposes. Social impact. Cultural homogenization. What is it? Is the internet to lead to it? Cultural homogenization is defined as the reduction in cultural diversity through the popularization and diffusion of a wide array of cultural symbols. Increases similarity of cultures. How does internet contribute to the reduction of cultural diversity? The internet has created a place where people from every culture can convene and share their experiences. This gives easy accessibility of different cultural products and commodities. However, this leads users to relying communication online, and that may cause less engagement with local customs and traditions, leading to a loss of cultural diversity. Another way the internet can lead to homogenization is with the internet rampant misinformation, making users think the same, therefore be the same. The poll conducted by the Public Affairs for Canada's Centre for International Governance Innovation found that only 10% of Canadian respondents said they had never fallen for fake news. According to the CBC, poll finds 90% of Canadians have fallen for fake news. Impact on the world. The pros of cultural homogenization is we can share and adopt universal values. According to the article, Internet Use and Human Values, it indicates that 4 out of 8, 6 out of 8, and 7 out of 8 Schwartz-like human value types are significant for Internet use for developed. Schwartz's like human values are defined as a universal model outlining 10 broad values that steer human behavior. These include power, achievement, hedonism, stimulation, self-direction, universalism, benevolence, tradition, conformity, and security. The cons of cultural homogenization are the gradually assimilation, culture identities, and Americanization. Gradually assimilation culture identities. Culture identities can be lost by the overruling of dominant cultures, resulting in an erosion of cultural heritage. Americanization. The similarities of countries can lead to Americanization through the Internet. American influence through the Internet can lead to countries outside of the United States to be similar to American, therefore losing its own identity. An example is Canadians consume media produced in the United States and filmed through an American lens. Because of our consumption of American media and idolization of famous American personalities, Canada has been experiencing an Americanization process over a long period of time. Identity theft? What is it? Where is the issue? How can we resolve it? What is identity theft? Identity theft is a serious crime where an imposter intends to commit fraud in your names. Anything including your name, driver's license, or social insurance number are prone to becoming compromised. For example, if your social insurance number becomes compromised, a thief can easily obtain false lines of credit and rack up significant debt in your name. Or, with a stolen identity, someone can hide behind your name in legal matters and leave you with false criminal charges or records. Identity theft is a major problem and happens frequently in our society. How is identity theft an issue? Aside from the obvious ways identity theft is an issue, how does it impact the bigger problems in society? For starters, identity theft leads to financial loss for not only individuals but also organizations. In the previous years, there have also been a rising number of cases with bigger corporations. In a 2022 identity fraud study by Javelin Strategy, the total amount stolen due to identity theft in the United States reached $28 billion and affected upwards of 27 million consumers. Additionally, 1 in 3 adults between the age of 25-60 have already been victims of identity theft. Beyond direct financial losses, identity theft can result in increased costs for businesses and financial institutions. These costs can include expenses related to fraud detection, customer support, and legal fees. These additional costs can have a drastic effect on the economy. Emotional and psychological toll. Victims of identity theft often experience significant emotional distress and psychological trauma. The violation of privacy from identity theft leads to anxiety, depression, and prolonged feelings of vulnerability, according to a study published by the National Institute of Health. 32% of victims reported that the identity theft incident caused them moderate to severe distress, and older adults were significantly more likely to report distress, as were women and those with lower household incomes. Identity theft can also erode trust in online systems, impacting the confidence individuals have in financial institutions, government agencies, and digital platforms. When personal information is compromised, individuals may become reluctant to engage in online transactions or share sensitive data. In a society where more and more events occur online, this can be a problem to fit in and be a functioning member without missing out. A survey conducted by the Pew Research Center found that 7 of Americans have experienced a major data breach, leading to concerns about the security of their personal information and diminishing trust in online systems meant to protect it. How do we fix it? Identity theft is not a simple problem that will just vanish one day. Chances are it will go on for a long time, but there are measures individuals can take to protect themselves for identity theft and measures they can take to mitigate the damage if they are victims. For starters, you can use strong passwords that only you know. Protecting your documents and personal information is another way. This can be done by using a VPN on public networks or installing antivirus softwares. Additional handing our information to forms or clicking random checkboxes should be avoided. For those who suspect they have been the victims of identity theft, they should contact the proper authorities. If your social insurance number has been breached, contact your government's fraud department, or if you suspect your banking details to be leaked or notice fraudulent or random charges, you should contact your bank immediately to take the proper actions. In any case, if you're a victim, you should always report the incident to your local police. There is always a way to prevent identity theft, but when it occurs, proper and swift actions taken can limit its damage.